whether it's electricians or pipe fitters or plumbers or whatever it might be. And that's why people like Mayor Jackson, who is supporting us, and City Council, and UAW, AFL-CIO, and everybody else. Mayor, I'll ask you, you have 8,000 unemployed people in Youngstown. How are you going to look at them and say you're supporting this to be voted down when people are crossing the border from Youngstown to go to Jeff Jacobs Casino 50 miles away, and they're going to spend that money and going to gamble anyway, and we want to do it right here in Ohio and keep it for Ohio citizens, taxation, economic benefit, and the overall job creation. I don't know how we can explain it to them. If I was a politician, I don't know how I would do it. So, you know, this is about creating wealth. This is about creating interactivity with those bars and restaurants. They're all behind us in downtown Cleveland now. We sat down with them. They understand it. The Q has, right now, I think there's 250 food stands in the Q, right, in Quicken Loans Arena when we have a game. 250 stands. You'd think, let's pretend that building wasn't there. And we said to all the restaurant owners, hey, what do you guys think about a building we're going to put right next to your restaurants and have 250 competing stands for food? They probably say, "What? That's crazy," but it's not crazy because 20,000 people leave there every single day and go to their restaurants. They'll do the same thing here, and it's going to be a boom to the restaurants and to the businesses downtown.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. At this point, I will now ask questions of these two gentlemen for the next 8 minutes or so. In this case, gentlemen, you may give and take between the two of you within reason. Thank you. First question, really to follow where you're going. Mayor Williams, I'll begin with you. The loss to the state in gambling funds spent elsewhere adds up to an estimated $1.4 billion a year, according to some studies. Red ink engulfs our state, our county, our city budgets. Even if that money went to casinos here rather than the pizza shops and the discount stores, isn't that a help to the state? Why wouldn't you want that?
Again, I said in my opening statements that I agree we should be keeping casino dollars in the state of Ohio. Absolutely, positively. But we can and should do that in a way that doesn't shortchange the state of Ohio. When you talk about the licensing fees, that should be established by market forces. When you talk about the tax rates, that should be established by the state of Ohio. I'm all for keeping those gaming dollars here, but let's keep them here in a way that allows us to get the highest and the best benefit. This isn't whether or not we should or shouldn't have casinos. Those arguments can be made all day long. So to keep the dollars here is something that I think we're all interested in, but let's keep them here at a rate that provides the primary benefit to the communities and to the state, and not have the casino operators dictate what the tax rates are going to be or what the licensing fees are going to be.
Mr. Gilbert, you have 30 seconds to respond if you so choose.
I would ask the Ohio voters to ask themselves, you have 15 days until this election, 15 days. If this does not pass, how long will it be before there's casino gaming in the state of Ohio? How long will it be before we compete against Michigan, West Virginia, Indiana, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for casinos? How was this racetrack scheme go? Put existing slot machines under grandstands in racetracks in rural areas? Is that the way you want to have it? Because that's what your legislature and governor went ahead and threw out there until the Supreme Court decided people got to vote on that.
Mr. Gilbert, let's go right to the accusation from the issue opposition that the casinos wrote Issue 3 and designed it to put as much money as possible into their own pockets. Defend for me the idea, and you only get 1 minute, but try and defend for me the idea that the industry tailored the measure to satisfy itself and prospective ownership more than the Ohio taxpayers.
You know, we're not that stupid, right? I mean, we're not maybe the most brilliant people in the world. We know if we don't put a fair proposal out for the citizens of Ohio, there's zero chance this thing gets approved. We polled 3,000 people across all sections of Ohio, geographically, demographically. We asked them, what kind of proposal do you want to see that's fair where, yes, a casino operator, sure, they're going to make a profit. But if you like the track record, you like to get on the winning team, you like maybe what our group has done so far, and if you want it to happen in Ohio, it's got to happen with a group that you feel comfortable with and that the proposal is fair. And the proposal is fair. It's an extremely high tax rate. When you combine the required infrastructure, $250 million plus the fee is $300 million, the exact number that Mayor Williams just said, is going to be plowed in these casinos and more. And we got to compete. We have to compete against Michigan and all these other casinos. We got to make this thing world class and make it interact with all the great other things going on in Ohio.
Again, depending on how you ask the question will shape your answer. When you ask an Ohioan about the question that Mr. Gilbert talked about, what if you would have asked the question to an Ohioan? If we're going to have casinos and you want casinos, should the licensing fee be set by the casino operators or should the free market set the price for the licensing fee? I imagine that most Ohioans would say, you know what, the free market should set it. If you ask them, should the tax rate be set by the people who are going to pay the taxes? We'd all like to set our own tax rate. Or should the state set the tax rate? I think the average Ohioan would say the tax rate should be set by the state.
Thank you both. We'll spend time for this next question. I'd like to discuss something we haven't really talked about here today. Casinos would provide up to $13 million for gambling treatment programs. Revenue from Issue 3 would give Ohio more resources to treat them. Is that good news for the state, given that we have to deal with the problems of Ohio gamblers anyway, Mayor Williams, no matter where they're losing their cash?
I agree that we're going to have to deal with. We aren't trying to legislate morality. You can't legislate morality. However, it has been shown that there is a strong link between increases in gambling and increases in crime and increases in social problems. So to the extent, that's a given, in my opinion, that where you're going to have casinos, you're going to have revenue attributed to those sources. But that doesn't take us away from the fact that if we're going to have casino gaming, let's have it in a way that doesn't sell us short. Let's have it in a way that doesn't have the Constitution rushed into. And Mr. Gilbert talked about 15 days. Well, 15 days is a relatively short period of time, and it's nothing when you talk about how long the Ohio Constitution has been in effect. So I'd rather get it right than get it done in a hurry. If Ohioans want casino gaming, we should make it known to our leaders in Columbus and make it done right.
Mr. Gilbert, that idea about gambling treatment, tell us a little bit about what went into the thought. Why $13 million? Why is it written as it's written?
Well, $13 million, actually we went and looked at all the states, and based on revenue and based on how many facilities and everything, the $13 million is something like 500% more than the next state. And I could tell you this, my personal commitment is, as long as I'm involved, that if that wasn't sufficient, which it will be, that there's no way that our casino and our operation isn't going to make sure that every single person, if they do have a problem with gaming, is treated. The other thing is the state lottery seduces people when they're going to buy their bread and milk. You have to drive to a casino and make a conscious choice to walk in. There's quite a difference there, and that's run by the state.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, in Cleveland, in Columbus, the casinos would go next door to the home of a pro sports franchise. We want to attract families to those sites. Clearly, families aren't going to gamble together, though. At odds with what the downtowns want to achieve, why did the legislation dictate where the casinos would go? Why not put them a little bit away from those areas?
I think that if you're going to have a downtown, and this is a big personal, kind of passionate subject for me, whether it's Detroit or whether it's Cleveland or Cincinnati or Youngstown or anywhere, the biggest mistake, in my view, of watching this for many years in my hometown of Detroit and everything is, so they put those 3 casinos in there, and they're doing pretty good, and they're generating tax money, and who knows what Detroit would look like without them. But had they lined them up on let's say what the equivalent of Euclid is, which is Woodward Avenue, and put them in an area that can create synergy and people can be walkable or walking around, and there's the walk to other restaurants and other hotels and other places around, it could have been 10x what it is. So you've got to put them where the convention center, close by the convention center, by the medical mart, by the flats, and we got a real chance to really make this city something very, very special here altogether.
Just a point of note with Detroit. Detroit, with 3 casinos, still has a $275 million deficit with 3 casinos.
Tax rate's way too low there, 19%. It's only 19%.
And to the point of, again, revitalizing downtowns, we all want that. But the argument is, do we want specific addresses enshrined in the state's constitution? Is that what the state constitution is designed for, to be that specific, to start identifying parcels of land? If the communities want them downtown, that's fine, but that's a decision that should be made by the communities, not enshrined in a state constitution.
Dan Gilbert, if 4 casinos are great, why not more? Jay alluded to Representative Dennis Murray and the idea last week of 15 casinos. Why not that idea? Why would Penn National or Rock Ventures not want the chance to build more houses?
Why not? And certainly this casino doesn't, it's certainly not a monopoly in any way, shape, or form. All it does is approve 4 casinos in 4 specific locations. Does not prevent any future casinos from appearing anywhere in Ohio, whether it's through legislative action or the governor's action, and there's still some people in Columbus who believe that it can be done that way. The reason it has to be put in the Constitution, it's a little bit vague, or a lot of bit vague, if that's the way you say it, in the Constitution of Ohio, of whether or not gaming needs to be approved by the citizens or not. So people debate this all the time. Certainly no investors are going to come in and say, let's put $1.5 billion of infrastructure in world-class buildings and create all this commerce and jobs, but hey, let's leave it up to a governor on a whim to just sign something and change it all. So therefore, to get that investment, to clear it up, you have to go to the people, which is the most democratic way of all. Let the people vote. They voted it down 4 times. They did what was right. Let's see what they do this time. I don't know what the constitutional argument is. It's more of an intellectual type argument than a real argument. You know what I mean?
I disagree vehemently, and I think Mr. Gilbert contradicted himself.